Welcome back to the Truck Driver Nation Elite Freight Dispatcher course. In Chapter 2, we are going to master one of the most critical skills you will ever develop, reading a load. One of the biggest mistakes new freight dispatchers make is believing that every load posted on a load board deserves a phone call. The excitement of seeing freight available, especially a load with an attractive rate, often causes inexperienced dispatchers to react before they think. They pick up the telephone, call the broker, and begin discussing the shipment before they have fully evaluated whether the load is actually a good business opportunity. Professional dispatchers approach the process very differently. Before making a single phone call, they study the load carefully. Every piece of information contained within the load posting tells part of the story. Some details identify the equipment required, others reveal scheduling challenges or operational expenses. Learning to read a load is much like learning to read a blueprint. At first glance, the information may appear overwhelming with abbreviations and numbers. However, with practice, every one of these details begins to make sense. Reading a load is not simply collecting information, it is learning how to interpret that information. Every load tells a story. The dispatcher's responsibility is to understand that story before assigning a truck. Imagine purchasing a used vehicle from an online advertisement. You wouldn't buy it just based on the photos. You'd want to inspect it and ask questions. Freight dispatching requires the same level of discipline. The advertisement is only the beginning. Professional dispatchers investigate the details before making a decision. One of the first items examined is the type of equipment required. This is the foundation of safe and legal transportation. A shipment requiring a refrigerated trailer cannot be assigned to a dry van. Likewise, a flatbed load requiring tarps cannot be safely transported on equipment that lacks them. Assigning the wrong equipment results in claims and financial losses. Once the equipment has been confirmed, attention shifts to the pickup and delivery appointments. These represent commitments between the broker, the customer, and ultimately the carrier. Missing an appointment can cancel future business. Professional dispatchers immediately begin asking practical questions. Can the driver realistically reach the pickup on time? Does the driver have sufficient hours of service remaining? A dispatcher who ignores these creates problems before the truck even moves. The commodity itself also deserves careful attention. Every shipment has unique characteristics. Transporting frozen food is very different from transporting structural steel or expensive electronics. Understanding the commodity helps you anticipate customer expectations, securement methods, and temperature requirements. Professional dispatchers don't just read the description, they think about what that commodity requires. Weight and dimensions provide another critical piece of the puzzle. A shipment weighing 12,000 pounds presents different operating considerations than one weighing 45,000 pounds. Heavier freight increases fuel consumption and wear. Ignoring these details can transform what appeared to be an excellent load into an expensive mistake. Heavier freight affects braking distance and truck performance, while oversized freight may require specialized permits and escorts. The posted freight rate is often the first number beginners notice, but experienced dispatchers rarely begin there. Instead, they treat the rate as one piece of a much larger financial equation. Revenue means very little without profitability. A load paying $3,000 may look outstanding until you discover the truck must travel 180 unpaid miles to reach it. Add heavy traffic, tolls, and an overnight delay, and that rate becomes far less impressive. This is why they calculate expected operating expenses before recommending a shipment. Gross revenue may look impressive on the load board, but net profit determines whether the carrier's business actually succeeds. Another area frequently overlooked is accessorial charges. These include compensation for detention, layovers, or specialized services. Experienced dispatchers discuss these items before the truck begins moving, not after the work is done. By now, it should be clear that reading a load is about slowing down long enough to understand the business opportunity. Every shipment should answer one important question. Does this load improve the carrier's business? If the answer is no, move on. Consistency is your most valuable habit. Follow the same evaluation process every time. Verify the equipment, study the commodity, calculate profitability, and consider reload opportunities. Only then should you commit the truck. Let's look at a scenario. A broker posts a refrigerated load paying $2,950 from Atlanta to Orlando. The driver currently has only 8 hours of available service remaining. A new dispatcher calls immediately. A professional pauses. Why does the pro pause? They recognize that the available hours of service may not support both the pickup and the required delivery schedule. Accepting a load that cannot legally be completed creates unnecessary risk for the carrier. The correct decision is to evaluate whether another driver is available. The highest paying load is never worth violating safety regulations or damaging the carrier's reputation. Successful dispatching is built on analysis, not reactions. In review, reading a load is one of the most important skills you will develop. Every shipment contains valuable information that influences your carrier's long-term success. Develop the discipline to evaluate every detail before making a commitment. Now, let's test your knowledge to ensure you've mastered these concepts. Ready? Let's go through a few questions. Question 1. Why should a dispatcher evaluate equipment requirements before looking at the freight rate? Think about the foundation of the decision. Because if the carrier cannot legally or safely haul the shipment, the rate becomes irrelevant. Equipment compatibility is the first requirement for every transportation decision. If you can't haul it, the price doesn't matter. Question 2. A load pays more than every other shipment available today, but the driver cannot legally complete delivery within their hours of service. Should you accept the load? No. Safety regulations and legal compliance always take priority over revenue. Accepting freight that cannot be delivered legally places both the carrier and you at unnecessary risk. Never trade safety for a high rate. Final question. What is the difference between reading a load and analyzing a load? This is the heart of a professional's workflow. Reading a load involves collecting information. Analyzing a load means interpreting that information to determine whether it supports the carrier's financial and long-term goals. Professional dispatchers do both. I'll see you in the next chapter.